I initially kind of thought like it's gonna waste my time to think before going to the answer choices. But by the time I came closer to the exam date, so without knowing myself, I kind of started pre-thinking. Like immediately after reading the passage, I used to think of alternate scenarios, and so that kind of helped my timing thing in the CR. In PACE, there is a first section where it tests your conceptual skills through some 10-15 questions. So if you're good at that conceptual skills, you can just directly skip to the practice and the activity modules. That way I saved so much of time there. After our initial call, we kind of structured a proper roadmap for the next coming 4 months. And then we proper milestones to check on the achievements and all.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations, Sai Kiran, on the amazing improvement from a 615 to 655, and then that 655 to 725 in just 21 days with an amazing Q90, V88, and D80. How do you feel?
Thank you, Vida. Obviously, yeah, when I saw that score, it was so relief, I would say, rather than exciting. So, yeah, I immediately called all my friends and told them, like, I have done it finally. So I scored the 99 percentile. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a very happy moment, I would say.
Wonderful. We can close that GMAT chapter forever for you, put it all behind you, and you can move on to bigger, better things. But before we close that chapter, right? Now, I know you've been through this GMAT journey, you've had a lot of ups and downs. Looking back on all of it, right? What was really the biggest challenge that you had to overcome to get to 725?
Yeah, obviously, I think a lot of them can relate to this is the consistency, like working, having a full-time job, then preparing for GMAT. So it's kind of hectic sometimes. So I feel like if I had been consistent, maybe it wouldn't have taken much time. So I feel whether it's GMAT or I think any other competitive exam or any other course, it's just consistency matters. Whether it's 10 minutes per day or 2 hours per day, it doesn't matter. I think if you are consistent, I think you'll get there.
Understood. Now, before we really talk about how you started this GMAT journey overall, how did you stay consistent this time around? I think now that you've hooked the audience, you have to also let them reel it in, right?
Okay, one thing helped is I recently switched to a job where it kind of gave me a good work-life balance, I would say. That is also helped me. And I used to like block my calendar, it's recurring calendar for 3 hours, like 9 to 12 p.m. Key like GMAT study time. Okay. So I made sure this time I stick to that. And also like since I'm enrolled in an LMP program with you, we have a designated timeline, right? So I have to adhere to that timeline. So for that also helped me in staying consistent, like being accountable and all. So there are days obviously where I couldn't study, but I made sure there is no many day as such days. So maybe 1-2 days gap is fine, but I made sure I came back on track, and whatever small time I could allocate, I did that. So yeah.
Understood. So these three changes seem really key to get to that 725. Can you give us a glimpse of what prep was like before consistency played a role in that success?
Sure. So before I used to prepare for GMAT, and then I used to attempt a mock. Then I used to get some score, and like sometimes there is no improvement. Like for a month I'll prepare and then re-attempt a mock, but still the score is stagnant. So I kind of felt very demotivated also. And then some or the other, personal or professional, I just stopped preparing, and then maybe 3-4 months later I'll again start preparing. So because of that I have to rebrush my entire topics again, which is again a waste of time. So but here in this time, so like 4-5 months I've been consistent in my preparation, so everything is fresh in the back of my mind. So that kind of helped me in achieving the high score, I guess. Yeah.
Fantastic, right? So let's look at what those key things that you learned during these 4-5 months and before are that really played a role. Like we said, you started from a 615, right? Which essentially was starting with a V83, Q85, and a D74. And now you're sitting with a 725 with a V88, Q90 perfect score, and a D80. So clearly you've improved across every aspect. Let's start with verbal because, quite frankly, V88 is a super, super impressive score, right? And that 5 point improvement was hard one. You mentioned to me previously that there is one key piece to GMAT, to success on GMAT verbal. What is that?
Verbal was my weakest section, I would say, of all three. So I think verbal at the end boils down to the comprehension, like how well you can comprehend whether it's a CR passage or an RC passage. So I think if you ask me one thing about verbal is it should be comprehension. So I think e-GMAT has various methodologies for the comprehension. Like there's a master comprehension module first you have to finish for the verbal. I think that really helps.
Understood. So it all boils down to how well you can understand that passage, and that leads you to that success, right?
Yes.
And I know that's one thing that helped you across CR and RC. On the CR side specifically, I know that one thing you were initially a bit of a skeptic about was the pre-thinking
Yes.
process, right? Can you walk me through that initial skepticism and what you used to do before to how that process really changed and what do you actually do process-wise right now?
Sure. So, in the initial days, like how I approached CR was I used to read the passage, and then I used to go through the answer choices and then eliminate and select the answer choice. So, when I enrolled e-GMAT, they kind of enforce pre-thinking process. So that is something new. So where you read the passage and you before going to the answer choices you kind of come up with some multiple answer choices, what can be the answer choice. So I have gone through the module, I have practiced that. Even then I initially kind of thought like it's gonna waste my time to think before going to the answer choices, I'll just go to the answer choices. Okay, so that's my thought. But by the time I finished, by the time I came closer to the exam date, so without knowing myself I kind of started pre-thinking. Like immediately after reading the passage, I used to think of alternate scenarios, and so that kind of helped my timing thing in the CR. So even though I'm skeptical, I kind of without knowing use that approach in the CR. So yeah, I think that helped. Yeah.
And I really can see the impact of just that consistency and how those trends have really improved. Because when I look at your Scholaranium grades, right, and when I look at your hard accuracies, I can see some really, really phenomenal scores. Starts off at medium with an 85, but even on those hard CR questions, you have that 75% hard accuracy, right, which equates to that 95th plus percentile ability, which the V88 shows without question, right? So I think the impact of those efforts are very, very clearly visible right here. Yeah. So
Right.
fantastic job. So on top of that work that you've done on the CR side, right? What additional learnings did you have in RC?
Yeah, so in RC, I would say there was an inconsistency initially. Like sometimes I would score good, sometimes I would score less. So one thing I constantly focused during my journey is improving my comprehension, like how to better read the passage, how to better understand the passage. Some things like keywords, like pausing at the right time and summarizing the paragraph in your own words. So it's not like I have taken any notes. I used to like summarize in my mind after reading a first paragraph. I used to summarize in my head and move on to the next paragraph. So that way, RC kind of I have gone through the RC. And also one thing I also did is if I feel long passages are my weakness, I used to practice the long passages to build my mental strength, so that I won't get exhausted even if I go through the long passages. So these are something that I've done with the RC, let's say.
Understood. And obviously, it doesn't look like you've made, huge sweeping changes. You're not using a list of shortcuts to really get to this answer choice. They seem to be very straightforward, repeatable steps that you've taken to get to V88, correct?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So V83 to V88, that's one phenomenal journey done, right? But you also improved from a Q85 to a Q90, which is also, again, fantastic work over there, right? One thing that you really did to make this improvement is you went through the pace guided e-GMAT course. You saved up to 42 hours of prep time. So how did you save time using pace? What were those 42 hours that you skipped over, right? And what did you actually learn on the Quant course?
Yeah. So quant, I thought my initial conception was I'm strong in quant. So that got shattered when I took the diagnostic test, I would say. I think so. In PACE, there is a first section where it tests your conceptual skills. through some 10-15 questions. So if you're good at that conceptual skills, you can just directly skip to the practice and the activity modules. So I think that way I almost got all the concepts questions right. So that way all the concept lessons got skipped. I think that way I saved so much of time there. If you ask me, throughout my quant journey, what I realized is quant is not just question answer problem solving. It has a lot of logical elements involved in that. So it's not about the level of hardness, it's just about the small logical things which GMAT makes sure tries to make you skip that. So if you focus on those small things, I think you'll feel quant as easy as much. Yeah.
Understood. So that I think is a very important understanding that it's the GMAT quant side is not a math test.
Yeah.
It all boils down to, like you said, the logic of the work itself, right? So absolutely true. How did you learn to listen to the logic on quant?
Yeah, I would say first thing, I'll say what I did first, then I'll tell the corrective shit. So yeah, even after taking the course and practicing everything, I used to attempt the questions, and then I used to get some questions wrong. So when I used to analyze these questions, I used to get those right. So then I thought like why I'm getting those wrong during the time of exam, and now I'm getting it right. So the main thing is for saving time, I used to rest through the questions where because of that I'll miss some conditions, some logics, some traps, I would say. Whereas when I look back and solve, I was able to look into those things. Right. So I think in an attempt to save time, if you rush, you will lose a lot of time in reattempting that question and resolving that question. So I'd say read it properly, the question, read thoroughly, take your time. That will save so much of your time, literally. So that is one thing, yeah, you can do that.
Understood. Now, throughout this verbal and quant journey, in some ways you were already familiar with a lot of the concepts and the processes here because you'd studied for the GMAT classic version before.
Right.
DI, however, brand new territory, and you improved a massive 6 points to that D80 as well. What were the key learnings from the DI section, and how did the GMAT course help you improve by 6 points?
Sure. So DI, I mean, as it's a combination of quant and verbal, as everyone knows. So I feel DI, one thing is you should be familiarized with the type of question, with whether it's graphical interface, different types of graphs, table analysis, two-part analysis, and MSR. Uh, and ironically, I'm strong in MSR. I don't know why, how it happened, but yeah. So I feel, yeah, e-GMAT has a wonderful wide variety of questions, I would say, which mimics a kind of actual exam type questions. So practicing that different types of question makes you prepared for the exam where you don't get surprised, or you know how to approach this question and what is the question going to ask in this type of thing. So practicing that help, I would say. Sometimes in graphical interpretation, by seeing the graph, you can just directly attempt the question also. So there are some, you can't attempt all the questions that way, but there are some questions which you can do that way. So that kind of, this course helps you prepare to do that. So which saves a lot of time. And because in DI, timing is one issue you should take care of. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I look at how you've done the DI course as well, just taking, for example, graphs and tables as an example, you've gone through each and every one of the course modules with such detail. You've really executed by, getting these amazing scores on the practice quizzes. You've immersed yourself in the learning. That way, one thing you mentioned, which was consistency, you put in the efforts the first time around so you wouldn't have to come back to things again and again. And I think that initial effort, it's really paid off, as we can see with both these grades and your overall score. So fantastic job on that front, right? Okay. So we have verbal down, we have quant down, we have DI down, right? And you mentioned one thing in that consistency aspect, which was the LM program. What benefit did the the last mile push program add to your GMAT journey this time around?
Sure. First thing, I mean, I should attribute so much part of my success to LMP program, I would say. So one thing that happened differently from last time to this time is LMP program, I would say. So where you have a mentor, in this case you, who always guided me. Like after our initial call, we kind of structured a proper roadmap for the next coming 4 months, and then we proper milestones to check on the achievements and all. So that one thing kind of helped me to stay consistent and be accountable
Mm-hmm.
to the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like whenever I'm stuck, we can just get into a call and analyze the reasons for that. So that also kind of helped me having an external perspective, right? So yeah, this is the major things I would say. LMP program kind of helped. Like
Yeah.
we literally even analyzed many mocks uh, over the call and like then planned accordingly. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I just showed, you've gone through that planner with such detail, with such dedication. You can see the dates you filled in. You've put in your comments on how well you've done, wherever you've kind of faltered, right? You've stayed accountable. And wherever there were these small gaps, we really understood, okay, what's the hold up? Why are we not, meeting the right kind of metrics? And in fact, if you look at it, we had initially planned for a 705, but
Yeah.
we surpassed that target by a good 20 points to actually improved quite a bit. So really, really well done on that front, right?
Yeah.
So the course was a constant companion. I was also a constant companion. But one other tool that you utilized throughout all of this was the Scholaranium platform, right? So how does having a tool like Scholaranium help you go from good to great?
Yeah. So actually, okay, one of the reason or one of the ways to improve is to find out where you're faltering or what are your weak areas. I think Scholaranium is where you can attempt the questions, and also you have the entire data available there, where you have the difficulty level wise, topic level wise, entire data where you can use that to your advantage and focus on areas where you have to improve. So that is like to pinpoint the subliminal area, like number properties, even in number properties, which areas you are exactly lacking. So that data really helped me like to analyze and improve and focus more on those kind of questions, right? And also on the other side of Scholaranium, you can like take a custom quizzes and practice the timing, practice the accuracy, and all things. Like yeah, I think e-GMAT has one of the like best data-driven tool, I would say. Yeah, that really helps. Yeah.
Fantastic, right? And I know, went really deep diving into that Scholaranium data. Like you said, even with number properties, exactly which topic, where, and we'd go from the level of, okay, you're at a 43% for absolute values. We need to bring that up to a 75% hard accuracy, and this is how we're going to do it. So just like you said, having that data allows you to create the kind of approach that moves the needle in the direction that you need it to, right? So that was really well done. Now, you've done all of this work. We had taken mock tests before that initial 655 attempt, right? And between 655 and 725, between that 70 points, there were only about 20 to 21 days. What changed between 655 and 725? How did you execute that improvement?
Yeah, honestly, coming to the concept wise, the subject wise, nothing changed. I haven't learned anything new as such or new techniques as such. I mean, you can't also considering the 21 days time. So only thing is I focused is to strengthening the already strong areas, and also like small. These are seems like a small thing, but it costs you a lot. So which is being attentive while you're reading a question per se, and focusing on small things which you might overlook in a normal scenario. And yeah, and also I make sure I practiced every day to keep the momentum towards my second attempt. So these are the small things, like nothing major regarding technical. Only thing is like ensuring whatever strengths are there, keeping that in check, and whatever weak areas are there, making sure improving that areas. And also like keeping the cool mind or practicing that coolness every time I practice questions. That also kind of helped. Yeah.
Understood. And that cool mind, I think, was one of the key factors in that 725 on the test day, right? But before we talk about that, just to quickly say it again, 655 to 725, the journey isn't about reinventing the wheel. You had already laid out all the groundwork, you already had all the processes in hand. It was about identifying the small cracks that had that large impact on test day. Because as we know, on quant, even one question can really bring your score down, right? And it was about making those small changes and those small behavioral changes as well to really push you towards success, right? So
Yep.
that is really what things were. Now, finally, testing, right? A bit of an interesting story for you. And I know that, like we said, the mindset that you had played a key role. What was that testing experience like? And what is the biggest learning that you got out of that experience?
Sure. So, okay, this time the test day, I'm not that tense considering I already had a score of 655. I'm kind of like worst case scenario. If nothing goes, everything goes wrong, I still have a 655 score. So, so I just went in as a like normal exam, and the test center is also same. So there is no external environmental changes which will impact me. So only thing is, I haven't treated as a like this is a final exam. Like it's a do or die. Not laying much emphasis on that. I just went there. I have to within the time frame. I have to be attentive. I have to be focused. I have to answer whatever question comes in my way, and that's it. Nothing else running in my mind during that time. So I would say that is one thing kind of different from first attempt. So yeah. So then that's the mindset I would say for the example.
Hmm. I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna poke you a little bit more here, right? What happened in the quant section? It was your first section right off the bat, and how did you put all of this knowledge into play during that quant section and beyond?
Yeah, so quant this time, as I said, I want to like read the question properly. I don't want to make those small mistakes where otherwise I would have got the answer right. So with that mindset I started quant. First question done, and second question, this is where like I thought things will go wrong. I took 5 minutes to answer that question. Then I kind of realized, no, this shouldn't happen. Now just guess it and move on. So then I guessed it, and then from the third question, I made sure I'm not taking so much of time. If I'm not able to answer, I'm gonna guess and I'll move on. So that's the mindset I had, and I'm answering all the questions, and I felt all the questions are like relatively easy. So I'm kind of back of my mind, I'm scared also. You shouldn't be. So and I got like ample of time at the end, 6 minutes of time. So then I thought I have 6 minutes of time. I'll go back and correct those mistakes if wherever I have marked as review. So then I went back and reviewed the questions, and there is no need to change any answers. So yeah, whatever I already marked them are correct. So this is my calculations again. So I recalculated again to be make sure like is it correct? So yeah, that's how quant has gone. And yeah, I never thought I'll get a perfect score honestly, but yeah, Q90 was like something else.
I think it just goes to show again, like you said, it's those small little changes, those little bits of logic that the test wants you to not focus on that help push the score up to perfection, right?
Right.
But I think what you have done in this test is particularly impressive because a lot of people, and this is just natural human tendency, in that situation would have maybe given up, especially if they felt the questions were easier or if they felt things weren't going their way. There's every human tendency to just think, okay, this test is a wash, get through. However, it doesn't matter and come back again. But you were like, okay, I'm in this test environment, whatever question it is, I'll just give my best and push through, right? And do my utmost to score as high as possible. And because that was your focus, the result also shows that level of dedication. So I think kudos to you because that mindset is difficult to internalize. But as you should, once you do, the results speak for themselves, right?
Yeah, that's
Fantastic. So we've gone through the entire story, and like we mentioned briefly, you studied from the time of the classic version of the GMAT all the way to now. And these last 4 odd months from the end of May have really made the biggest impact and change on your entire score.
yep.
Looking back through your classic prep, right, your first prep, your second prep for the GMAT, what do you think is the most important learning other than the consistency aspect that you have to share with students out there?
Sure. Other than consistency, I think definitely a structured approach does help. If you're self doer, you can do that. Otherwise, if you feel some external help is required, better to go and ask for it. So that will definitely help you in making things in perspective. And the second thing is the mindset does plays a major role other than your concepts and techniques, everything. So have a mindset of like I don't know how to say, it's like a logical mindset, I would say, rather than like problem solving mindset. So that also changing that perspective, looking at the exam in a different way does also help. I would say, yeah, these are some of the major things.
Very true. Consistency, mindset, and just making sure that you have that structured approach throughout. Three important keys to GMAT success, as we've seen, right? So Once again, thank you so much, Sai Kiran, for taking the time out for this interview. As your mentor, it's been an absolute pleasure to mentor you over these last couple of months, and I'm so excited we can close the book on the GMAT once and for all. And to all our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions for Sai Kiran or for us, let us know in the comments. But until next time, all the best, happy learning, and take care. Bye bye.